Alright, Josh here again. I wanted to give a brief update of what I have done in my yard. I've done quite a bit, I think, and I think some people will be happy with the results. I know I will be in a couple of years. So the first thing I did was I planted 14 blueberry bushes here. You can see them all down here. If you look down at the very end, where all the brush is growing, that's what this whole hill used to look like. I had the help of a tractor and girl named Sarah and my back helping me dig out all of the brush from here. So I think I've got about 5 different varieties of blueberries, maybe even 6 or 7, I don't recall. I tried to purchase varieties that will fruit from the beginning or end of May, maybe the end of June, all the way until around October. So I should have a pretty steady harvest of blueberries for years to come, for a very long harvest season. The next thing I planted a little bit higher up this hill is a row of strawberries. These are ever-bearing strawberries. The first variety is Seascape, and the second variety is TriStar. And then up here on the top of the hill, I've not quite finished the trellis for it. That's just a rope to keep it in line. So if you notice strawberries are crooked, I just did it along the ridge of the hill for simplicity. And then I kept the raspberries in a straight line, well, mostly straight line. There are 3 varieties of ever-bearing raspberries here. We've got 2 red and 1 white, or 1 gold, or 1 yellow, whatever you want to call it. And then at the very end here, I have some blackberries. And blackberries aren't so special here because they grow like weeds. If you look all there, that is a large amount of blackberry canes, and I guess there's a lot of salmonberry in there too. But anyways, when I pulled up some blackberries, I kept some of the good ones with strong roots so that they would take well when I planted them here again. I don't think that would ever be a problem with the blackberries because they are literally weeds are out here. See, there's more weeds, and there's more weeds across the road. All blackberries. And then here's the strawberries. So I've got 17 raspberries and 10 blackberries, about 2 feet apart, so that's 27, so that's about 50 feet or 60 feet here worth of things that are planted. So I think that'll give me a pretty good yield. Now eventually I plan on doing some stuff on the back side of this hill, but I need to get some additional labor to help me clean that up, because that's very tough to get that stuff out. It's got really big thorns on it, and my property line is at that power pole, and it goes just on the other side of this ditch here. So I'll be doing something with that in the years to come, maybe later this year. And then the other thing that I plan on doing is I need to clean this ditch here up, but I will put some fruit trees down at the bottom there because they won't shade everything out. So this is the top of a hill, obviously. The sun comes from over there and down onto here. And actually my raspberries will block out the sun for my strawberries, but my blueberries will grow up tall enough to be, maybe about knee high from where I'm standing, if that. And then at the bottom row, if I put some fruit trees there, they will be about chest high up here, or even lower. And I think they'll be the perfect height. I can even do some espalier type plantings to keep them kind of narrow so we can walk in between the rows, but that's not terribly important. Alright, now let me pause a little bit as I walk up the hill and show you the rest of everything. Alright, so here are the rest of my raised beds. If you notice, I haven't gotten the hoop house done yet because on all of the warm days I've not had extra hands to help me throw the plastic over, and that's really all that needs to be done. Plus I'd like to get the beds inside of it done first, but that's not necessary. That's not absolutely necessary, but I just have to be careful not to poke holes in my plastic. So here's my bed of overwintered Swiss chard. Now when I started the winter, I haven't harvested any of it, but some may recall it being pretty big. I planted some more baby Swiss chard in here, and I've got the cover off because it's raining and the dirt was pretty dry. So I wanted to get some extra moisture in this bed. In the next bed, we'll see some overwintered brassica. I've got collard and 2 types of kale. So here's the collards, and here's some red Russian kale, right there, there, and there, and then I've got some curly kale. And then, oh, and the fourth type of kale, or third type of kale, dino kale. And then if we look over here, now this right now is my pride and joy bed. Here's some more curled kale. I don't remember the variety offhand, I'd have to go look it up. And then some collard greens. And I transplanted these all from another bed that I had growing. Now I've got 18 of them in here, and they will grow to be right now about knee high, and this bed will be solid with greens. The other thing I've done is I planted out this bed with some starts that I had this year, and this will be exciting. So here's my vegetable starts, or my starts. These are all, what are these? These are all broccoli, Samantha F1, oh, and some cabbage. So I think there's some cabbage, broccoli, and back there's a collard green that made it through the year. Oh, and a dino kale made it through the winter. And these, I'm pretty excited about the growth of these, because when I put these in, they were maybe even a quarter of the size, so that's really good. They're doing really well. In addition to those, this is the bed that I pulled out the other stuff from. So I'm going to transfer everything in this bed into some other things, because I planted these 4 per square foot, and you notice they're getting pretty big now, and they need to be thinned out. So maybe yeah, so there's one with 2, there's one with 3 in it. So the other thing I did was, on this one, let's see if we can peek through it and see what's in here. See how everything's doing. Oh yeah, I put some dino kale in here, and I grew that inside at the end of the winter. Let me go on another side where it's a little bit easier. Oh, this isn't doing so well. Might be a little bit easier to peek into here. And I put some lettuce in here. They almost fell over. Lettuce and some other things. Lettuce is doing okay. There's 3 types of lettuce in here, and I don't remember the types. I'd have to look at them. One of them is bronze arrow, and they're the really tiny ones. And then I think the bigger ones are Waldman's dark green or something like that. And from here, this bed I planted in here something at the very end, the very tiny things. Again, I've got the cover off of this one to get some moisture in the bed. If you look, there's some dry dirt. Very impressive to have dry dirt in this time of the year anywhere. And there's some more dry dirt. And it's raining right now, so there's some more kale and collards and a dino kale. And right here probably is dino kale of some sort, or some kale. I don't remember. I apparently didn't put the sticker in it. But one thing I was excited about is this bed I had my lettuce in here last year, and look, I've got 1 lettuce coming up. And I may have more, but I think I pulled them all up before I realized that they were potentially lettuce. But this side right here may still have some freely growing. And these beds, I won't really show much of them. The other 3 beds. The far one has some celery in it, really tiny. This one has some Napa cabbage, again really tiny, and some kales. And this one, same thing. It's got some bok choy at the very, very end, a dark green bok choy. And this has true Siberian kale, and it looks like some more Waltham broccoli in the middle there. But I planted these out when they were all really small, but I put them out when they have their first mature leaves for the most part. But I really just didn't have any more space inside, so I needed to put them out. And I've got one more thing to show, and that is where I have direct seeded some carrots and some lettuce. So this is the bed that I'm working on. The kids kind of taking it over as a playground for a little bit. It's almost full. Not much more work. I got part of it at the very end full. The dirt's really muddy right now. It's very hard to get a good fill in it. Again, I haven't finished that one yet. That one's still working on. But this one here, I planted a direct seeded lettuce in the whole thing. And this is direct seeded carrots. This is a Paris market carrot. which will be about 2 inches long, like 2 inches wide, and grow like a tiny ball. I did that because the rock-free soil here is only about 4 inches deep at the most, and maybe in some places 2 inches deep. So I needed a shallow carrot to grow in there. And then again, I'm trying lettuce again in this bed. This time I direct seeded this whole bed. Oh, and I will show you some of the stuff that I got in here. I'm pretty excited because I've managed to have quite a bit of collard greens growing in here. So I think I've got 19 collard green plants growing in there and some stray tulips. And I think I've got some nettles growing somewhere in here. Oh, and some arugula. But I do not like arugula. Arugula is coming up in here just fine. Oh, here's where I think the nettles are. This is either nettles or blackberries. I've never seen nettles in my life, but somebody told me they were nettles, so I am believing them. And then you can see right there, there's a pretty big collard green growing. And then the last thing I've got growing is some collard greens right here that I've open seeded or just cast some seeds about at the middle of last year, end of last year, and they're growing. And that's about it. So hopefully you enjoyed the tour of my garden. I'm getting everything planted out, and I'm pretty excited right now that I think I'm going to have a pretty good garden this year. See you guys. All right, so one last thing I wanted to show you was my 15 cubic yards of composted horse manure, wood chips, and hay. This I got it for $6.50 a cubic yard, which is a ridiculously cheap price for this kind of stuff. Some places I found for free, but they wouldn't deliver to my area, and that was a bummer to me. But I think this is a much better quality than the stuff I would have gotten for free. Because of the wood chips, it helps slow down some of the release of the nitrogen from the horse manure, and then eventually will release a lot of nitrogen over time into the soil once the wood chips get composted more. So I'm doing a grow test, and I'll post the results of it when it's finished, but so far it looks like I can grow vegetables in this composted manure straight. So it seems like it's a pretty high quality stuff. Right now the vegetables aren't dying that I'm growing in there, so I'm pretty excited about that. But this is 15 cubic yards, and I've been using it as a soil amendment because I've got some of the soil that I brought in last year has a lot of clay and is really dense, and this stuff is really good at breaking that up and loosening it up and putting some organic matter back into that soil. The other thing is I'm not going to bring any outside soil. I'm just going to be using soil from my land, and this will help increase the quality of just the soil, because once I get past the first 3 or 4 inches of topsoil, I get dirt with practically no organic matter, and I want to raise the organic matter in that, and I think this is the perfect way to do that. So if you guys have access to something like this, I recommend it. With something like horses, the place that I got this is a horse shelter, or some place where where a horse boarding is what it is. It's called Eden's Farms, and it's in Snohomish for anybody who's around here. But the reason why I went with horses, even though the horse manure has a different nutritional components than, say, cow manure, I think cow manure generally is used more for fertilizer or for soil amendment. But I went with the horses because in a boarding environment, they're less likely to be given constant doses of things like vaccines and things like antibiotics. So I think the soil here, or the manure here, will be much cleaner than what you may find from a regular CAFO type environment. Even from an organic one, the cows in organic grass-fed places sometimes are not very humanely cared for. So